Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in to this month's live stream. My name's Eric, call sign N1JUR. We got a special guest tonight. All of us are very excited to have Larry here. call sign Whiskey 1 Alpha Sierra Tango. His CB friends know him as the Big E, but you may better know him as head spearhead, extravagant, leader of the Project E, which we're all excited to hear about. But as always, like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate everybody who's listening to the stream here. And as always, as you all know, we are Live Free and Ham. We're your bi-weekly podcast exploring ham radio topics in New England, New Hampshire, and beyond. So whether you are a first-time watcher or a first-time guest here, we're always excited to have you on. We appreciate your support and appreciate you tuning in to this week's live stream. So before we kind of get into today's show, as I said, my name is Eric, and I'm the host for this evening. Call signs N1JUR. And I have my co-hosts here join with me.
Yep, Ryan, W1SNH.
And Todd, W1STJ.
And we have our esteemed guest, Larry. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Larry.
I'm Larry, W1AST, outside
right.
in Western Massachusetts.
Very cool. All right. Well, hey, before we start off every podcast show, we always like to catch up to let our listeners know kind of what's going on in our ham lives, as well as what's going on with the Live Free Ham crew. So just a couple of quick things. We are going to be doing a live stream every month. So this is our live stream for August. So September will be coming up soon. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you always subscribe to the show and our YouTube channel. That way you always get notified when we go live. And as well, we've got a couple of big announcements. We will be live streaming from the Northeast Exposition in Marlborough this year. So we're all excited. A lot more forthcoming, but keep an eye out to our Facebook and YouTube channels, as well as our website for all the details. But we will be there on Saturday, the 25th. All day, we'll be doing a live stream. We'll have a bunch of guests on from the forums, and we'll be just doing a big giveaway for an FT 4XR and a gift certificate as well. So please come by, say hello, check us out. We're always, happy to meet our existing subscribers as well as meet new ones. And as a kind of a pre-announcement, in October, Nearfest will be coming up. It's one of our other festivals here in New England that will actually be there, and more details will be forthcoming. And so keep your eyes peeled both through our website and pay attention to all of our socials as well. All right. So just to kind of set the stage here a little bit, guys, as we all ask each other every, episode, what's been going on in your, ham life these days? And so, Larry, you are our guest today. So we'll kind of start off with you, if you don't mind. What's been going on in your ham life? Anything you want to share with folks?
Above and beyond Big E, this coming weekend from Friday through Sunday is the Northeast Ham Exposition in Marlborough. It's hamexposition.org. We have some new and exciting forums, and there's more forums actually at this Ham Fest than in any other Ham Fest around the country. We have a new presentation of MCOM trailers. We have new speakers. We have a virtual vendor for the first time, which will be exciting and there's some fantastic raffle prizes from radios that are worth $3,000 all the way down to a 25-cent bag, which is what I won last year.
So still in good use, though, I hope.
Oh yes. But and there's a banquet Friday night with a guest speaker sponsored by the Yankee Clipper Contest Club, and a grand prize there. And there's a guest speaker Saturday night, which is going to be should be fascinating. The speaker is local, and it's probably going to be above and beyond my understanding. But from what I've heard about him initially, he sounds absolutely fascinating. And of course, it's all related to ham radio, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to, if you're not going with anybody, it's a great way to meet and make new friends around the Northeast, and have a good meal and enjoy ham radio.
Very cool. And it's all weekend. So, you don't have to, if you can't go Fridays, you always have Saturdays and definitely into Sunday morning. But
right. And the forums are posted online. It starts with, there's some kit building and other stuff going on Friday. There's a youth forum and, all day Saturday and parts of Sunday morning. And then the big door prize drawing, I think is 12 or 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. And then everybody goes home.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, hey, Ryan, over to you. What's been going on in your ham life?
So I'm still picking away at all 50 states worked as a hunter. So I got a couple left, which I've been, actively watching the webpage there when people pop up at parks. So I got a couple left. North Dakota's the big one for me, kind of a little bit of a distance. And then actually, it's aside from that, it's been, I'm quickly approaching a phase here where right now I'm in my shack. It's in the basement. And come wintertime, it gets very cold down here. So my big home improvement project is to take the shack apart, insulate the walls, the floor, and everything. So I've been unfortunately planning on how to move all this stuff out of here and get that job done. So I'm not looking forward to that, but I know once it is finished, it'll be much more enjoyable in the wintertime.
Oh, I can imagine, man. I can imagine. It'll be at least 10 to 20 degrees warmer for sure.
Hopefully, yes.
Very cool. All right. Well, hey, how about you, Todd? What's been going on with you? I know, obviously, Australia's been really cuddling up to you there over the evening hours. But well, take it away. Let us know.
Yeah. So I want to thank Eric for coming over Friday and helping me re-raise my antenna. It had fallen down a couple notches in the trees over the ice storms we had this past winter. So I was kind of hesitant because I've been hitting Australia, New Zealand like every night I work overnights, like 5.9, super strong signals, having QSOs, been great. So I was afraid if we raise it up back out of the tree and a little bit higher, we're going to lose that. But fortunately, that didn't happen. I think it actually got better. Last night I was working VK3XXY, so I want to give a shout out to him. His name's Alan. He's from Daisy Hill, Australia, just kind of northeast of Melbourne. But we had a QSO. I told him about this podcast, so I told him for him to check it out. So if he's listening or if he sees this, he's got a little shout out for down in Australia. But like I said, that's really what I've been up to. Just doing that when I'm working these overnights, and I'm glad I got my antenna up. I got a lot of projects coming up. I got to do the grounding. I got to get my DX Commander up. I don't know what else do I got to do, Eric. There's a whole list of things. So that's basically where I'm at.
Just note that I am not Todd's personal project manager. So in terms of his schedule, whatever.
He goes, when are you going to do that?
So. That's very cool. Well, I'm glad, like I said, I gave you that, caveat, the no warranties expressed or implied that if we raise the antenna, that if you got worse connection, worse contacts, that it wouldn't be my fault. So I'm glad it worked out.
Hey, and just so heads up, if you ever need him, Eric's a pretty good shot. One shot, and that thing was like off. I'm like, wow, that was a perfect. You couldn't get any better than that.
Yeah, well, if we didn't have to fight the whatever tree that was in the middle of your yard to get the antenna free from it, I think we probably would have been done in record time. But there was a lot more extra steps. But as we all know, when we all try to adjust antennas, how many times you have to do 25 steps to undo to get back to where you really do want, get the antenna higher away.
I mean, we went through 100 extra feet of paracord, yeah. And we had 60, so it's 160 feet of paracord to get this wire up in this tree. So you can imagine how high it is. So
might I suggest Project Potato Gun?
Actually, funny. Well, that's what put it up there.
That's what put it up there. So yeah, so it was good, and I appreciate him. He coming by and helping me out with that. So, and I got to try it out on Saturday overnight, and that's when I worked Alan out in Australia, and it was very good QSO, good propagation, and everything was cool.
Very cool. All right, well, wrapping it up with me, I haven't been doing a lot of ham radio just because I've been, prepping for a whole bunch of other stuff and trying to juggle. But, having the flex, gives me that advantage to be able to just, when I'm bored in the living room or, I don't want to watch whatever's being on, cast on the TV from one of my wife's shows, I always have that flex there and available. So that's been fun. I have been working a lot of, or trying to work some of the YouTubers that are down in Montesano. In Huntsville, a lot of them been activating that big park down there. So, been trying to pick them off a little bit here and there. And for those that, remember from our previous podcast, I had the web page that I built on my own personal site, which is n1jur.com if you want to check it out. But it's basically, I decided to hunt the YouTubers. So I created my own kind of DXCC thing. And so I just kind of been, adding them to my list. And as I work on them, I update them. And, it's been a blast and fun to do that. So I think, as I continue to plug away, it keeps me, still on the pace with hopefully one day that I might actually get, Alaska or Hawaii so I can finish my worked all states, which may never come, to fruition, at least while I'm on the East Coast. So, I don't know.
Or you guys don't want to hear that I've already got all those.
Oh, yeah.
A couple times over, but.
Yeah, I will only hopefully, pray to the ham radio gods that I can, go activate a park somewhere out in maybe New York that, just give me that little extra distance that I might need. So, or propagation might work out to my favor when, fall rolls around. So you never know. That's the fun thing about ham radios. You never know what you're going to get until you, you get out there and try.
Now you got to chase some DX.
Yeah, that's, I think we're all in that same boat. POTA has, ruined us all, and we're all just, out there to try to keep working as best as we can with as many DX stations as we can get on our rosters here. So very cool. All right. Well, let's kind of dive into the topic tonight. There's definitely a bunch of people in the chat. So thank you again for joining us tonight, and feel free to ask questions along the way. If, we could talk about, the topic tonight is on Project Big E. For those that aren't familiar with it, this is the second year, correct, Larry, that you guys done?
Yes.
Okay, so second year. I was actually very lucky to, and actually I think I dragged my wife kicking and screaming. She had said she wanted to go to the Big E, and I had heard that we had ham radio there, and I said, sure, I'll go, when I'm usually not one to go to large fairs and whatnot, just because I've done them all the time. We went and I hunt down the booth, and it was a blast because at that point my daughter had gotten her, technician license. So it was just it was a really great scenario to see what was there. It was a little tough to find, but in essence, Big E is small, and not small by any stretch of the imagination. And we'll get into a little bit of that. But this year is definitely, you guys are definitely wrapping up. You've gotten some great support from both, the division website and promoting that and doing that. But you've taken a lot of the reins, Larry, I think, just in general, of putting this together and just, seeing it through, which has been just awesome. And now that you're kind of in that second year and you're doing a little bit more promotion and getting people more interested in getting the word out, I think it's exciting a lot of those clubs and a lot of the other, people in the area that, they have now a platform that, things can grow and take off from. But so to kind of circle back, so Project Big E is a project that Larry and his club, I think, started out, and he'll go into a little detail. But you can find all the information if you're interested. You can either quickly Google Project Big E, or you can go right to the New England Diviv website, and they've got a big section up there explaining what Project Big E is about and kind of a little history behind it. But tonight we really want to kind of give Larry the opportunity to be able to just kind of share what the Big E is, from his expectation, from his experience, my mistake there. And, some of hopefully share some stories along the way about, what they saw last year and what they're going to hopefully expect this year, and talk a little bit more how people can get involved if you're in the New England area and you want to start helping out or promoting more, or getting more involved in making the ham curious, the actual hams, and get their license and ticket. But before we dive into that, so Larry, just as kind of a frame of reference, if you don't mind sharing just a little bit, kind of what's your ham story been in general, and how did you get your ticket, and kind of where that's led up to, to today.
I think I was in sixth grade. A friend of mine came up. My friend Steve came up to me and said, do you want to talk around the world on shortwave? And I said, I had no other hobbies. And I said, sure, but let me talk to my parents first. So we started going to classes for at the Pioneer Valley Radio Association, which is no longer available. It was at the Red Cross in Springfield. And Steve got his license first, and then I got my license. I was originally WB1 DBY, and I held that for 36 years.
Wow.
And so I got my novice in 77. I got my general in 79, and I got my advanced in 81. And that was a week before I went to college, and then I'm still in advanced. In my heart, I can, the CW is a breeze, but the tech part isn't. But having a lot of fun. I do a lot of CW. I do a lot of sideband. I do digital. I've got an Arrow antenna sitting in my trunk waiting to be used. I haven't haven't used it yet. And pretty much anything that interests me. I do QRP. I do camping. When I was a Boy Scout leader, I used to bring a QRP rig with me and sit down and operate. I've got HF Mobile. I've gotten into D-Star. Whatever interests me, I get into. But I love CW. Don't ask me how many CW paddles I have. Begali and N3ZN are getting rich off me.
Well, we'll have to ask what your favorite paddle is, but yeah, I'm sure you say all of them because they're all like your children. But
it's the Begali and the N3ZNs are tied. I've got 2 Begalis, and I'll be picking up a second N3ZN at the Ham Expo next weekend. He's making one up special for me.
Larry, just out of curiosity, what speed are you comfortable working at?
I can rag chew all day long at 16 to 18 words a minute. And while I'm contesting, I can easily do 28 to 30 words a minute.
Wow.
But
cool.
I can't rag chew at those speeds. It's strictly, the quick call, report, and section or whatever the report is for contesting. And it's a lot easier typing, who you're talking to and having it being sent out by hitting the function key. Although I can send at that speed too.
Sure.
But and then the more you start with CW, the more that you operate it, the better you are at it, and the faster you can go once you start ramping up. If speed is your thing. But in the summertime, we go camping and at 5 or 10 watts, and I'll sit there and rag chew for 20, 40 minutes at a time in CW, and it's great. I love it.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, so CW obviously is for some of us here, is we love to talk about it, but out of us 3, we if you held us at gunpoint, we'd all, we wouldn't be here.
Well, if you have an interest in it, there's a group called the Long Island CW Club. A good friend of mine, Rich Collins, KPUPS, is one of the founders. I've referred a lot of people there, and they are phenomenal as far as teaching CW.
Oh, very cool.
He might be a good person to get on your show in the future.
That is one. We actually had our previous podcast. We had Tim KC1QDK, and he is funny because he was in his CW journey, decided to get on TikTok and do letters all the way through the alphabet, and he's like got over like 1 million followers just alone on like 5 or 6 letters, and he was sharing all those experiences. So it inspired me, obviously, but my key is still when winter rolls around, maybe I'll take her out and take her for a spin again and get back under the grips there.
There's a lot of interest in CW right now. It's but I do digital too. There's some of the old timers say, "Oh, FT8 isn't ham radio." I said, but anything that gets people on the air is ham radio. And
exactly.
Whether it's now and whatever may happen in the future, there's more things to experiment with, and there's more people than ever interested in CW too. So whatever's out there, experiment with it. There's lots of facets of ham radio for everybody to play with. It doesn't have to be just a certain thing.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, we all subscribe to that. So for sure, you're in good sorts here. So cool. All right. So this kind of led up. I mean, obviously, you had mentioned, and we were talking offline a little bit about how you're involved. You're current president of what club again? The
Hampden County Radio Association, which this year's our 75th anniversary.
Wow.
Of the club and of association with the ARL, and we're located in the Springfield, Mass area. And we cover an area probably like 30 miles in all directions from Springfield. So we get people that come in from the Berkshires, come up from Franklin County, or come down from Franklin County, come in from like not quite Worcester County, but the Brook out near Palmer, and then all the way down to like Ellington, Connecticut, and West Hartford, Connecticut. So it's a good club. We don't have any repeaters, and we work with and have meetings that anything to do with ham radio. And we do field day, and you saw my bear picture earlier. So
yeah, that's a story. We'll have to, if we have some time later, we'll have to make sure we dive into a little bit for sure. Cool. So how did you guys what kind of spurred on the whole Project Big E? Was it something you guys just had drinking, standing around a campfire and saying, hey, we got to do something more because we got this big event, or kind of share a little bit about that, and then we can kind of dive into how you piggybacked on top of something as big as the Big E.
Well, going back to 81, 82, I was at that time, the Mount Tom Amateur Repeater Association had a booth at the Big E. At that time, we had an antenna up, and we passed thousands of pieces of traffic because, of course, there was no such thing as cell phones and portable phones and all that. So we passed traffic all over the world and thousands of pieces of it. And that sort of planted the bug. And then fast forward to around 20 years ago, there was a booth at the Big E. They are in the 4-H building. So it was very loud, very dark, very hard to find, and very selective as far as who went in to see it. So not many people viewed it. So since that ended, for many years, I kept thinking Big E, Big E. And then right around the center of COVID, it's like, all right, let's start seeing what we could do. I threw the idea out at the New England cabinet meeting, and the then director of New England said, it'll never pass. It'll never happen. The league won't help you. I won't support you, blah, blah.
Wow.
But everybody else who was listening to it, I got tons of emails and things that says, let's do this. This is going to work. This is a great idea. So in January of 21, at the next cabinet meeting, I did a presentation, and that's when we started moving things forward. And the goal was for September of 2022. And there was a lot to do. We with Phil and many of us in New England, we built up the New England Division website for the Big E. The big thing was recruiting clubs. So last year we had 12 clubs and over 100 volunteers from throughout New England, which is,
wow.
I don't know how we did it, but we did. It was crazy. And then at that time, originally we were planning 4 to 6 people in the booth per 6-hour sessions. And you have to man the booth from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., blah, blah. And so somehow we made it through, and we learned a lot, first year, growing pains. And, I was like, at the end of it, I was sort of burnt out.
I can imagine with something like that. It's you guys were in for how long? The whole span of the Big E while they're there, or just a short period of time? Or
No, the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. So in order to get the booth originally, I approached the Big E, and they said, well, a booth in the Better Living Center is going to cost you $6,000 to $8,000. And I was like, wow. Okay. So one of my clients, because I run my own little business, computer business, and I talked to one of my clients who was an ex-president of the Big E, and I said, I'm thinking about doing this. Will this work? He says, it's a great idea. Go in as a nonprofit. I'll put your name. I'll give you my contact. And he got us a free booth.
Oh, wow.
And we have that booth again. It's a $6,000 booth. That's how much it would cost if we were not a nonprofit. Which is, no small amount of chump change there.
No, definitely not.
So we started planning for it, and last year we applied for a $10,000 ARDC grant, and we got the grant, and it worked out great. We were able to buy and pay for what we needed. And last year we did an ARIS contact, mainly led by Fred Kemmer, AB10C, and New England SciTech, and they did a space chat during the Big E session. That was sort of built into the Big E and part of the budget. So this year we're not doing that, and we made a lot of changes. We're not doing a live HF station. Last year, Remote Ham Radio sponsored us for the 17 days. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't been to the Big E, and especially into the Better Living Center, it's very loud. So we put the kibosh on HF or Remote Ham Radio and such. But the main goal is to we want to get people interested in ham radio, and it goes multifold. Okay, so not only do we get people, we talk to people, we put together a special QSL card, we put together a special email address, a special link in the Big E section of any DIV mm-hmm. called Fun Ham Radio, and so we put all that in place so that when we started talking to people and handing out these cards, people would hopefully go there. We did have a few issues last year, which we're fixing this year, mm-hmm. And all. But the idea is to showcase modern ham radio, and a lot of people that came to us last year said, "Ham radio? I thought that was something you did, years ago. That it doesn't exist anymore." And we showed them, it's relevant, it's still modern, it's still new, and as the field day logo of a number of years ago, when all else fails ham radio, is still very, very, very relevant and such. So we talked to people. We had 2 Morse code oscillators on the front bench, and people came by, and that was the big draw last year and such. But backing up a bit, the goal last year and the goal this year is to get people interested in ham radio. And last year, I think we spoke to between 12 and 1,300 people.
Wow.
And and I know some of those people did get their licenses because I got an email saying, "Hi there, thank you for introducing me to ham radio during the year. I got my I passed my test, and I'm now a ham, and I'm having fun." And
that's cool. So you're getting feedback, even from the fact that you didn't even do like a live testing, session and ran that whole thing. That's great.
Yeah, it really is, and people found places to to take tests and to study and hopefully join clubs too, which is the big thing, to build ham radio in New England and to build on strengthen the clubs in New England. There's 150, I think there's 150 ARL affiliate clubs in New England, so everybody can benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 12 clubs that volunteered last year, we had some from Cape Cod, from Vermont, New Hampshire. We had none from Maine, but we did have hams that came down from Maine. We had some from Massachusetts and some from Connecticut. Excuse me. So, there's interest there, and plus hams from all the states, plus Westchester County in New York and Northern New Jersey came in and did parts in the booth. So we pretty much covered the Northeast, and which is pretty amazing, I think.
Very cool. So in your second year, I mean, obviously you get some, and just to kind of circle back around, those that are in the chat or whatever, just want to throw a comment out or a question for Larry or, anything in this night, just go ahead and throw that in there. We'll make sure we get it up there and get, some answers to that. But in your second year, kind of what is really from last year to this year, what was the one thing that you wanted to improve upon and basically, get more into the foreground for, whether it's just, being club focused or ham radio as a whole, or what is it like? So if I was a club member or I was a club wanting to come into something like this and help out, what would be the kind of, plan or purpose that we should, consider as we were kind of coming into this?
Well, one of the things that we stressed last year is there's 2 types of people we did not want. One is you don't want to bring a techie in because you don't want a techie talking to people that know nothing about ham radio, because they'll walk away with their eyes rolled into their head and say, "These are a bunch of nerds. I don't want anything to do with this."
Yep.
And we don't want the person who's afraid to talk.
Sure.
Most of us are hams because we like talking, and look what we're doing now. But there's a number of shy hams out there. So for somebody to come into the booth and help out and not say a word in the 6-hour session they're there isn't going to help us. So we just need average Joe ham or average Joe ham and spouse, which it happens a lot of times. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing. And we have a conversation email that we sent out with topics to discuss and things to say and things not to say. Okay. Things we want to change from this year versus last year is we're changing the design of the booth to make it more inviting to welcome people into the booth versus having people on the periphery of the booth. Mm-hmm. We're changing how things are presented and what's being presented. We're making it simpler and shorter. So, short 2 or 3 minute videos and slideshows to bring up topics of conversation. We're going to bring more pictures and information about STEM-related learning for the younger crowd, which usually gets, it's a great project to get parents in with their kids and, enhancing the STEM learning, the science, technology, English, and math, or engineering and math, sorry. So those are the things. And one of the things that we're greatly enhancing on, which we failed miserably at last year, was how we're collecting names and emails of people interested and emailing them out, a list of clubs in the area or links to clubs in the area and classes in the area where they can go learning and links to the ARL and all that. there's a core group of about a dozen of us that worked on it last year, and we're working on it this year.
Mhm.
And we learned a lot last year. Only one or two people who were part of the team last year had any idea what a booth should look like. And then once we did it, we're like, okay, we need to make some changes, and we're hopefully doing that this year.
Awesome. Okay.
One of the things about the Big E is last year they broke records for attendance. So if you've ever been to Dayton drew this year a little under 34,000 people. Okay. Wow. The smallest attendance at the Big E last year for one day was over 34,000 people. Okay. To put that in perspective, if you've ever been to Dayton. Now, the largest day last year was a hair under 178,000 people.
Wow.
In one day.
In one day. One day. I've got the attendance in front of me. So the average attendance was looking at probably the average attendance was somewhere in the 70,000 per day, 70 to 80,000 per day. We are in the Better Living Center, which is a popular building, and it draws a lot of people. So what's that? 1% of even 34,000.
Yeah,
it's a big number of people that could potentially pass by the booth that we could talk to.
Very cool.
Larry, for those who aren't familiar with the Big E or have never been there, where is it located? And what's when in September? What's the date range?
Okay, the Big E is the Eastern States Exposition. You can go to, I think it's thebige.com or maybe it's just bige.com. I don't, thebige.com. It's held in West Springfield, Massachusetts on the fairgrounds. It started out as strictly an agricultural 4-H type of fair, and it's grown exponentially. There is still the agriculture and the Big E. There's amusements for kids. There's over 150 different food trucks. So you can if you go hungry, because you can taste anything from fried Oreos to amazing steak to anything you can imagine.
It's funny how you start with fried Oreos, but
yeah.
Well, that seems to be what brings a lot of people in. There's crafts and vendors. There's people that sell sheds and hot tubs,
everything,
and chamois, and just about anything you can imagine. What we're trying to do too is we're trying to bring in volunteers. We're desperately in need of volunteers because the Big E is it's less than a month away right now. It starts at Friday, September 15th. It goes 17 days straight to Sunday, October 1st. Mm-hmm. In order for us to keep our booth, we need to man it every single day. So that's 17 straight days, 12 hours per day.
Wow.
We broke it into 2 6-hour sessions, actually 6.5-hour sessions. We'd like the morning people there for 9:30 in the morning and to stay until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the afternoon session starts. We want them there at 3:30 so they can transition with the morning people and stay until 10 p.m. at night. If you're coming in the afternoon, you want to come, especially if it's a nice day, you want to go earlier because the traffic could be backed up for miles.
Yeah.
Depending on how you come in. One of the things is we did receive a grant this year. We received an $8,300 grant, and in that grant, we will be reimbursing all volunteers for their parking and for their admission.
That's awesome.
So we did that last year too. It worked out good. So you could receive, because parking is $10 and admission last year was $15. I don't know if it went up this year. I haven't found that out yet, but whatever it is, we'll be reimbursing it. So we can't do it, the same day. It all gets done. Everybody submits their tickets and stuff, and then we send a check after the Big E has ended. Last year, I think we wrote, I don't know, 85 or 90 electronic checks, and
nice.
So it didn't cost us the mailing and the postage to mail them out, which is nice.
Very cool.
So the Big E is the 6th largest fair in the country. It's the largest fair on the East Coast. It's the attendance can be amazing, and there's a lot of walking. when you park your car, make sure you take note of where you've parked.
Yes. Uh-huh.
One of the nights last year, Ray, W1AST, and myself were the only ones manning the booth. And then, when it ended, we went out there and Ray's like, I don't know where I parked my truck. So I went and found my truck and we drove around for 20 minutes and we finally remembered where his truck was and we found it. And I had the misfortune to do the same thing a couple nights later. It's if you track your steps, it's a great place to go because you'll do a lot of steps. And it's easy to do a couple thousand steps a day. So it's a great opportunity to volunteer, but it's more than just that too. Is if you're volunteering not with your club but just as an individual, one of the things that's really cool, which I found very, very interesting, is you can be paired with other volunteers. So you'll be in touch with people that you may not otherwise have ever spoken to, and it ends up being, creating a new friendship and having fun with people that you probably never would have spoken to on the other hand or approached. And it's a great way to make new friends and have a good time. Let's see, what else can I add? It's
So if you were a club, I said, so if you had a club or you had people in your club that you want to get an interest, what would you recommend them to do in terms of bringing either stuff or setting things up for demos, or any suggestions around that?
Yeah, the clubs are welcome to bring the banners if they have a banner for their own club. If they have classes or websites or handout materials, they're welcome to bring that too. They can bring radios. There's a nearby D-Star repeater. There's a nearby FM repeaters. Because we're in a metal building, HF doesn't really get out. I do have permission to put an HF station in, but we decided not to do it last year for a variety of reasons. And one was ruining their roof and having to pay a couple $100,000 to fix it. So we put the kibosh on that. And Remote Ham Radio stepped in and did good by us. But we had our own issues with that. Not so much with Remote Ham Radio, but the operators who refused to do computer logging and wrote everything down on paper, which kind of defeats the...
So Larry, how many, so if a club wanted to do a time slot, a 6-hour time slot, you said, how many people are expected to be in that booth for that 6-hour time slot? Like, could a club say, okay, we're going to do a 6-hour time slot, but then, maybe within that club, split their club members up to maybe do 2 hours at a time? Or are you expecting the same group of people to be sitting in there for 6 hours?
Well, it's a 6-hour session, and we need at least 3 people in the booth. Okay, you could probably get by with 2, but no less than 2. That way,
so if they had 9 club members that wanted to do this, they could split it up 3-3-3.
They could do that, or they could take the full day and take first session and second session, and bring in more people. We're near the men's and women's room. We're near a door. We do have foam padding on the floor so you don't kill your feet on the concrete floor, because that can do a number on you during the day. We do have 3 chairs. I have bottled water there. There's candy for those that pass by, but you're welcome, to help yourself too. It's really the clubs can bring in as many people as they want, but it's not a square space. It's kind of a trapezoid, so no 2 sides are equal. So it's kind of funky shaped, and you're not going to fit everybody in. But you could have people in the aisles, talking to people as they come by, pointing people towards the ham radio booth.
So as a club itself, you would you suggest them doing like small little electronics projects to that level, or something more just kind of informational Q&A?
A lot of clubs specialize in certain things and some don't. Some are welcome to bring, small, simple kits and show what you can do with electronics. It's you have to really think about if you weren't in ham radio and you were passing by, what would draw your attention to it that would make you want to stop and talk? And that's what we're dealing with. So electronics might do it. The Morse code key, we have a piece of paper that has the Morse alphabet, and we have a space beneath, and we have kids and people right there print their name, and then we show them how to send their name, and that usually gets them smiling, and then they start sending their name. And last year we had a couple amazing naturals that took to it immediately. And then we give them the sheet of paper afterwards, and it's got information on ham radio and where to find out more information, and something they can do. And one way we're appending that this year is we're going to put directions to make a simple sounder and straight key, so they can build that as a kit with their parents or by themselves, and have the Morse on the backside with information on how to learn more. And we're hoping they'll follow through. We may put together a whole bunch of little kits with paint stirrers and metal and a battery and a piezo, and give those away to interested parties. So if family comes by and the kids are interested, we'll say, here's a kit, here's the directions, build your own, and here's where you can follow up and learn more. New England Sci-Tech is going to be offering a special class for the Big E with a discount for their classes, and they do a lot of virtual classes. So people can be located anywhere. And then once they get their license, go looking for a club. One of the things we did last year was, if you've ever gone on the ARL website, and I'm a life member for the ARL, so I'm not demoting the ARL here, but one of the things that I don't like about the ARL is if you go to the ARL looking for a club, like if I was looking for a club in the Springfield, Mass area, if I didn't punch in exact town where my club is located, it's almost impossible to find a club. So in the New England division, Phil K9HI and Bruce K1BG and myself, we enhanced how clubs are looked at and found. And we put together a map. We imported in the 150 clubs for New England, so you can zoom into where you guys are in New Hampshire, and you can see the clubs that are in your area. And then you can click on the dot and learn more about it, find the website, find the contact people. And that's something the league should do, and they haven't done it yet, but there's hope. There's hope. But that way, when people get their licenses, they can go to this site, they can find local clubs, and we all know, clubs are what enhances all of us and helps build the clubs and builds ham radio better in the area, and helps you have more fun.
Yeah, I agree. That's a big club. The club was huge for me. I mean, that's how basically the three of us got together. We all kind of joined the club, I think, pretty much around the same time. And we met Ryan. Eric and I were doing a POTA activation, and Ryan drove by, goes, ham radio, Parks on the Air. And that's how it all started. But yeah, I mean, the club, I think anyone, if someone's watching this that's not a ham or into it, I mean, getting into a local club that you can connect with, there's just a ton of resources, and everyone is just so helpful. And our club is very social. Like, we get together a couple times during the week, like unofficial groups. Like, we do a breakfast on Wednesdays. We go to the press cafe, and we take over a room. And, it's come all, most people come, same, sometimes you get different people coming in, but we just sit around and chat. And if there's anything that's broken, or you need a question about something, or you want to show something off, people bring like the show and tell kind of stuff. But I've learned a lot. I'm a very new ham radio. I've only been, a couple of years, and I'm one of these guys that doesn't know a lot about anything. I just know the very basics, and I like to operate. So I'm constantly learning more and more about it. And it's to me, it's starting to become fascinating, because now I start to understand. But it wasn't because I took the test and I studied in the book. It's because of all the guys that I've been hanging around with, and the information that they've been feeding me. So yeah, clubs are huge. And I think it's really important that we get as many people who are into ham radio to join their local clubs and be a member, and kind of go with that, because you'll get more out of it.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll echo Todd. So, Larry, I'm curious, with the attendance there at the Big E, has there been any interactions with the local high schools or elementary schools?
We, as I mentioned, my club, which is based in the Springfield, Holyoke area, has been around for 75 years. And like most clubs, we're experiencing some issues with the older crowd versus the medium age crowd and the younger crowd. So we've all got different ideas on how to do things. And we were going gung-ho pre-COVID. And then post-COVID, I still think the club is not quite awake enough, and we haven't gained force enough to continue the way we were going. But I'm working on it, but haven't gotten there yet. But so we ourselves don't have much access. We have a little bit of access through a few members to schools and stuff, but we don't have enough manpower to do it. The National Club has been amazing with how they can get into schools, and they do ARIS contacts, and they do STEM learning and stuff. But we don't have the manpower, at least in my area, to do that. Some of the other clubs have, and some don't. But club-wise, again, it's somebody getting their license and not knowing what to do with it. Anybody can get on 2 meters, but there's so much more than 2 meters. And if you've ever traveled around, my son used to go to college in Western New York. So between here and the 6-hour drive, 350 miles, I had every repeater programmed in. And one time I was outside my local area. The only repeater that ever came back to me was Syracuse. Nobody else along the way. So FM is not, and I don't know how it is in your area, but in my area, FM is not very welcoming. 2-meter FM. So by going into clubs, there's lots of other facets and lots of other people to try. And POTA is huge right now. And a lot of new hams. Like, you guys want to get into it. I've been in it. It's great fun. And it's a great way to introduce new hams to it too.
I've done a lot of my activations, and a lot of people come up and ask what they're doing. So I've printed out some information about ham radio, the ARRL, and POTA, and I hand those pamphlets out, and I answer the questions, and they can hear, and I invite them to give it a shot. So I think that's a great way to get people interested. I get a lot of people coming, oh, I was a ham years ago, and I let my license drop. Wow, that's all you have now? Like, that antenna is pretty compact. Like, that's crazy from the old days. So even the technology is getting better. But our club does something that is kind of, since COVID happened, we do a nightly net every night, 7 p.m., except when we have our club meetings, which is once a month. And, we get anywhere between 10 and, maybe as high as 20 people. And most of them are club members. We believe more people are listening than talking or participating. But I think it's one of the things that's kind of grown our club, is having that net, and people hear us and then they reach out. You might get an email or a question, or someone will show up. So I think that's, for our repeater, it gets kind of a lot of use, and then people are on it. Like, I always try to talk to people on my commute into work and on the way back. And that's kind of how I got into it, because before I got my license, I was listening to the net via my scanner. So I didn't even know what the club was, and then I found out.
One of the things techs can do is they can get on D-Star, DMR, System Fusion. So I drove out to Dayton with friends, in May, a 12-hour ride, 750 miles, and I was talking to my friends back in Connecticut, and also I have friends in Eastern Mass, through D-Star, through radio hotspot in my car, and hotspotting my phone, and being able to talk pretty much wherever I wanted to with an HT, or in my case, the mobile rig in the car. And that's something new hams can do, and that's something that's exciting. It's I was camping up in Vermont last summer and sitting under my awning, and my wife was beside me reading and talking on my HT to my buddy who grew up in Connecticut but is living and working in Dallas, Texas. And then a guy from South Korea comes in, and excuse me.
We have to edit that.
A guy from South Korea comes in. We have a 20-minute conversation, and that's pretty amazing. I've talked to Korea on my HF, but to talk on an HT, and my wife was so entranced. She's not a ham, but she was so interested. She just sat back and listened, and it's something fascinating you can do, and you can actually hold the conversation down. It's not just 599, thanks for the contact, goodbye, and move on to the next one. It's actually conversing, and I have a QSO with. And that's something new hams can do, and that's, something exciting we're trying to show at the Big E too, what the new hams can do. I know we're running out of time. Eric, can you put up the last slide in my
we've got some
PowerPoint?
time here, Larry. So I think I got a couple of questions. Ryan, did you have something you want to lead in with, or?
No, I was just, one of the, I think Larry hit the nail on the head there, is getting that eye candy for the younger ham or younger crowd walking through and get them interested in ham at the Big E. And, how do you entice them with, I don't know, is it a digital waterfall of FT8? Is it getting them behind the microphone and make a contact with someone who's kind of staged off, nearby on same frequency? I mean, that's, there's a lot of different ways to spin it. The little giveaway kits, I think that's great. But it's, but I think all that is interesting, issue to tackle.
And the only way we could do it is through volunteers.
Yep.
We need volunteers. We desperately need volunteers. We have a sign up page. It's on the Big E page on the NE Division page. There's a sign up link, and it shows every day and what time slots are available. And I check that daily, or you can email me at W1AST Alpha Sierra Tango at ARRL.net. Okay. We need your help to make this a success. The league has said they will not help us because they have to pay their people to be in the booth. And, last year, 1.6 million people came through the door there. There's nothing else in the Northeast that has a public attendance like that. Yeah, they go to Oshkosh. I don't know how many people they get from the Oshkosh plane thing. But there's nowhere near the amount of people that come through the Big E. And, so 1% of, or 1/10 of 1% still gives a lot of possibilities for drawing that amount of people and getting people into New England and getting their ham tickets and getting them into clubs and becoming one of us and having fun.
Yeah,
So, Larry, did you want me to bring up that last slide for you at all?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go. Let me share our screen real quick. Let's go here. I just got to figure out where. There we go. Big E, sure. So we're looking at that one.
Yep. So on there is we have a Groups.io group. It's called Project Big E, and you can join that for free. Underneath that is the NE Division, New England Division site with the Project Big E. And you can keep watching that, news about that and things we've done last year. The Google Forms sign up, we've just come out with a shortened version, and that'll be going out in an email probably later this week. And, of course, you can always contact myself, and I can point you in the right directions and answer any questions. I will be at the Ham Expo. I will be doing a talk at the Ham Expo. Last year we had 28 people that came to the meeting, and I think 22 of the 28 actually volunteered. You can volunteer for more than one day at a time. If you're coming in from a distance and if you're going to spend the day or the evening, we can put you up in local hams have offered their homes as a place to stay for the night. Last year we had one husband-wife team from New York, the Hanover, New Hampshire area, that they were exhausted after the day and they slept on our futon for the night, and it was a good group. But the offer is there if somebody needs it. And again, the main thing with the Big E is to reintroduce people to modern ham radio and enhance growth of ham radio in New England, both individually and with clubs.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, we will make sure that all of these links are definitely down in our show notes, both in the podcast and in this live stream as well. So you can always refer back to that. And as always, definitely we thank you for being on, Larry. This is wicked informative. And I know from at least my standpoint with a few club members that I've been talking to, they've been super excited to want to get out there and basically go volunteer in a spot. So you probably will definitely seeing stuff from our club as well. And if you guys are listening, those that are watching, those that listen on the stream later, if you want to be involved, don't be afraid to just send Larry an email. He is super friendly. I've firsthand experience have been truly this experience of just communication and being able to get plugged in and being able to get the resources and be able to get involved. He'll definitely get you out there and involved and just go and volunteer and just you don't have to like you said, you just have to be average ham Joe. There's you do not know anything more except how to press the PTT on the radio, then you're the perfect fit for that. And you just need to share what and that's what's going to attract those folks to ham radio and want to experience more and be part of such an awesome and amazing hobby.
Sounds like the perfect place for me to be. I know how to push the button.
It's a lot of fun. It really is, and you meet all sorts of people, and but it's a lot of fun. It's and come hungry too, because those 150 food trucks are waiting to find something for you.
Yeah,
just bring a lot of green though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
My experience when I went last year was awesome, but I think I left there like with an extra 10, 15 more pounds on, than I really needed. And no matter how far I walked, I don't think I was able to walk it all off. So it was all good. Cool.
But thank you guys for having me. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the Ham Expo next week and meeting you in person too.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Larry. It was nice of you to come on, and we really appreciate it, and a lot of great information. And we'll see you next week for sure.
Well,
absolutely.
most certainly.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, let's wrap things up here. As always, thank you guys for tuning in, those on the chat and those that'll be listening after the show. 24 hours after this gets converted to the podcast, so you get a bonus episode in your feed in a day or two. And as always, remember, if you haven't subscribed, you can always connect with us by leaving us a review on iTunes, because it always helps the show, or on our website. You can connect with us as always on social media, and you can stay abreast of all of the latest information, shows, and content. And then you can always support us as always through Patreon and buy us a beer links, as that every little bit helps us grow this podcast and get ham radio out into the masses. So with that, if you want to contact any of our hosts or the show itself, you can always go to livefreehandham.com. And as always, Larry, we did throw up your contact information, but if you want to just share that one more time so folks have that.
Sure. Anybody can reach me at Whiskey 1 Alpha Sierra Tango, W1AST at ARRL.net. I check my email often. And in fact, I check my email all the time. But any questions you have or anything you want to know, and if you want to come in from far away, we do have people that are coming in. I can set you up with carpools, and if you need a place to stay, I can set you up with a place to stay, so you don't have to pay for a hotel.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. And with that, well, I would like to say again, thank you for listening. And from all of us on Live Free and Ham, 7-3.
7-3.
7-3.